Hi there. Are there options for persons wanting to come to Canada but are unable to do so due to a bar caused by a previous breach of Canada's immigration rules or some other type of inadmissibility? Well, yes. The answer is yes. One of those options may be a temporary residency permit, a TRP. Welcome back. My name is Donovan Francis. I'm a Canadian immigration lawyer at GOOSELAW Immigration, where we help businesses with their employees' visa applications and save them the legal hassle. In this video, I want to talk about the temporary residency permit, TRP, that is available in certain circumstances where an applicant may otherwise not be allowed into Canada. Now, generally speaking, there are circumstances under which someone, an employee, or somebody applying for a study permit or a family member applying for a work permit, where that person may be barred from entering Canada because of some issue that happened in the past. Okay, so these issues are referred to as inadmissibilities. Okay, so one could be barred from coming to Canada, for instance, if they have a criminal record. So somebody who was charged for driving under the influence, DUI, may be barred from entering Canada on grounds of criminal inadmissibility. There are other reasons why one may be inadmissible. It could be on health grounds, or it could be because somebody may have been in Canada before, but may have breached the terms of their condition. So if you were inside Canada, or if you're still inside Canada on a work or study permit, and you did not conform to the conditions that were imposed on that work or study permit. For instance, your permit may have expired and you may have remained in Canada even though you no longer had authorization to remain in Canada, and more than 90 days have passed, which means you can no longer apply for what's called restoration of status. Then you would have been likely found inadmissible on grounds that you breached Canada's immigration rules. And in those kinds of circumstances, your best option may be to first apply for what's called a temporary residency permit, a TRP. Now, there are a couple of things you need to be clear on as far as the TRP is concerned. The TRP in and of itself is not a status document. So it is not the same thing as a work permit or a study permit. It does not grant you legal status in Canada. The purpose of the TRP is to help you overcome the inadmissibility. And if that TRP is granted, you still have to apply for your status document, which is either going to be your work permit or your study permit or a visitor record if you're here as a visitor. Okay, so that's very important. The TRP is something that will have to accompany your other application, whether it be a work permit application or a study permit application, because the purpose of the TRP is to address the issue of inadmissibility. And remember, inadmissibility has to do with whether or not you should be allowed into Canada. So that's the purpose of the TRP. The other thing to bear in mind is that a TRP application is what's called a discretionary application, meaning it is going to be up to the discretion of the immigration officer who is assessing your application to determine whether or not there is justification in allowing you to enter Canada, notwithstanding your inadmissibility. And so what the officer is going to do, the officer is going to do a weighing of the factors. The officer is going to look at the issue that is causing you to be inadmissible. So if you overstayed in the past, the officer will on one hand look at that, and then on the other hand, the officer will assess whether or not by granting you a TRP that it will allow you to bring value to Canada without causing any harm, to the safety and well-being of the Canadian society. Right? So on one hand, the officer will assess, what are the risks associated with granting this person a TRP? And on the other hand, the officer will weigh whether or not there'll be any advantages coming to Canada as a result of you being granted this TRP. And then the officer will use their discretion to make a determination. So it's important, that's important to bear in mind. And so from our experience, where, you know, there are companies, for instance, who've had employees coming from different countries, such as the US, who may have been inadmissible for different circumstances. From our experience, you know, if this employee is some kind of a high-skilled person whose contributions are going to be valuable inside of Canada, then that is going to play a significant role in helping the officer make that determination when they're doing the weighing. You know, however, if it's somebody who is merely wanting to come to Canada, you know, as a tourist, for instance, then it's likely that the ruling will be less favorable, because the officer may likely conclude that your purpose for coming to Canada isn't significant enough to outweigh the reasons why you would have been inadmissible to begin with. And therefore, the officer may decide not to grant a TRP. Okay? So that is what goes into the determination of whether or not a TRP should be issued. And if a TRP is issued, the purpose of the TRP is purely to help you overcome the inadmissibility. You still then would have to then apply for a work permit if you're wanting to come to Canada to work, or if you have an employee who you want to get to Canada to work. And similarly, you'd need to apply for a study permit if you're an international student. And this is applicable to persons who are inside Canada as well. So from our experience, we've also done these types of applications for people who are inside Canada, as well as for people coming into Canada from outside, especially where these are employees, high-skilled employees who are needed in Canada, and where the inadmissibility is not significant enough to cause the officer to not approve the TRP application. And finally, the TRP is going to be necessary where a foreign national inside Canada has fallen out of status and has not restored their status, has not applied to restore their status, and more than 3 months have passed, more than 90 days have passed. So if you are inside Canada, more than 90 days have passed, and you have not, you know, applied to restore your status, then you will likely have to apply for a TRP in addition to applying for a work permit or a study permit or visitor record, whatever the case may be. All right. I trust you found value from this. As always, remember to like our videos so others will see more videos like this. Subscribe to our channel and check us out on go.gooselaw.com. Thanks. See you again.